seems to be filling the airwaves today is about a positive message, and it's about Tucson and who we are, our values, and that how we are greater together as a result of the sum of who we are together, the diversity of who we are. So we have a whole an array of very diverse speakers to kind of share Tucson, who we are, the values that we are, that we represent. And I'm just going to invite them up one at a time, and then at the end of it, Ben's mom, Jeanette, is going to take part in unveiling the mural, the mosaic that you walked past and didn't see on the way because we did it from you. So, anyway, first of all, Representative Randy Freeze, come on up, and Randy will share a few words, and then he's off to legislative obligation. Yes, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Steve, for asking me to participate. I'm very honored to be here and talk to you about one of the two, I think, most important acts, values, emotions, kindness and gratitude. So kindness today, so very important. An observation, right? Sometimes it may be easy to be kind, right? You see someone who's hurt, you render aid. Someone who might be upset, you console. Sometimes it might be more difficult to be kind, and that's when I think it's more meaningful. It's a sort of deeper level, someone who may be different than you and may need some kindness. Someone who may in fact not believe in everything you believe in, someone with whom you disagree. And I deal with a lot of people with whom I disagree in my job. And so I try to be kind because I think kindness leads to a waterfall or cascade of different beneficial things, right? Kindness leads to listening. Listening leads to respect and understanding. Respect and understanding leads to trust, and trust leads to negotiation, compromise, right? And that's where we need to be when we disagree. We need to be able to use kindness to help us get to a place where we can trust one another and then begin to bring solutions. Solutions that address more than just one point of view. And that's what we're working for in Arizona. Not quite there yet, but we're working for it. So thank you for allowing me to come today, and thank you for letting me share. I really appreciate it.
I'm pleased to put the name and face together. Randy was involved in the immediate aftermath of the January 8th shooting as a trauma surgeon down at what is now Banner UFC, so thank you for that also. Pastor Grady Scott.
Good afternoon. I'd like to share something with you concerning the current situation in our nation. The true strength of America's richness is its diversity, a unique blend of cultures, experiences, ideas, values, and intellects. People committed to the promise that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, the right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Today, there are some in our nation that seek to divide this nation. And so great is this danger that it behooves all of us to come together and stand against it. To borrow an analogy from the Apostle Paul, think of America as a body made up of many parts. Each part different, each part necessary. You can't advance without me, and I can't advance without you. There are no unimportant parts, no unnecessary parts, but each part playing a role in the greatness that made America. Tucson is unique, and now we have an opportunity to show the city, the state, and the nation that this is a city of kindness. It's a privilege for me to be able to share in this unveiling of this monument to a strength and not a weakness. We're living in a society where people take kindness as a weakness, and the reality is kindness is one of America and one of mankind's greatest strengths. We can all learn how to be kind to each other if we simply ask, how would I want to be treated? If we take that lesson, I want to be treated as I treat others, or I want to treat others as they treat me. And so I'm asking you, all of us in this room and all across this city, to light a candle of kindness, to let the whole world know that you'll see it when you come to Tucson, Arizona. Thank you.
That's why you were here. The director of the Jewish History Museum, Brian Davis. Come on.
Thank you for this invitation to share a few thoughts about our work at the Jewish History Museum and how it dovetails with why we're here today to talk about promoting acts of kindness. The Jewish History Museum stands in a historic synagogue, the first Jewish temple built in the Arizona Territory in 1910. It's just a few blocks south of here on Southstone Avenue. And the museum stands at an interesting intersection of cultural histories in our community. Our immediate neighbors to the south are the congregation of the AME Church. That congregation was established in 1905. And directly across the street is the original home of the Consul of Mexico in Tucson. The consulate was housed in that building from 1936 until just 2 years ago. Part of the Jewish History Museum's mission is to carry forward the work of the last rabbis who led the congregation in our temple building. These rabbis established formal organizations to advance what they then called interracial dialogue. And they did this courageously in the 1940s at a time of legalized segregation in this country. They did this work according to the Jewish value of tikkun olam, repairing the world. Today, the museum continues to nurture intercultural dialogue, and the Holocaust History Center on the museum's campus highlights the dangers of racism in all its various forms. The Holocaust History Center presents the catastrophic violence of the past as a siren, warning us of the slippery path from divisive and hateful language to brute physical violence. Recently, we've seen how some of the most hateful and vile symbols and behaviors of the past are not of the past. They remain persistently present. And that is why this work is so urgent. Vasily Grossman was a Soviet Jewish writer working as a journalist in the Red Army who saw and described the decimation of the city of Warsaw. He also heard inspiring stories from some of Warsaw's Jews who were saved. He wrote, "Kindness, this stubborn kindness, is what is most truly human in a human being." Nazi fascism, on the other hand, viewed the world as an eternal race war, a bloody struggle among classes of people for infinite or for finite resources. And within this ideology, there was no room for any idea, be it religious, philosophical, or political, that justified seeing the other as oneself. Fascist ideologies create a moral abyss where racism and politics come together to create a void of nothingness. The Jewish History Museum was established to strengthen our community and help pave the way toward a more just and peaceful future. And we are fortunate and thankful to be located in a community where we have so many partners, like all of you who are here to celebrate kindness today, and will continue to do this work together with you to strengthen our community together. Thank you all.
Interracial conversations back in the 40s, we're still struggling with them, aren't we? With the Southern Arizona AIDS Foundation, Mr. Adam Reagan. Come on, Adam.
So, good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the Southern Arizona AIDS Foundation, it's a privilege and an honor to be here. Our mission at SAFE is to cultivate a healthy and stigma-free society through transformative action. One ways we know we can break down stigma is by being kind. And so as I was thinking about what I wanted to say today, I want to be brief about it because kindness is a choice. We see a choice of people coming here today to talk about what it means to be kind. As a member of the LGBT community, conversations that we constantly have with each other is about what makes Tucson and Southern Arizona a place to live, a home. And it's the kindness. It's all of you in this room. It's everybody out there today choosing to be kind, choosing to love one another, choosing to come down and spend an afternoon with each other, choosing to find ways to have conversations about how there's more in common with what we share than what divides us. And no matter how often people from the outside try to divide us, Tucson will stand as one pueblo. We'll be one people with one voice, choosing kindness. So thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Kind of getting the sense that we're a pretty diverse community, and we can celebrate that. One of the people that I know who just oozes compassion is the director, the founder of Sacred Space, the Reverend Teresa Cowan Jones.
First, I want to thank Jeanette Moran. I get verklempt about and for your courage. That I was sitting here thinking, of course, from my Southern accent and roots, you were kind before kind was cool. Thank you for the beauty you created in this community. We wouldn't be here without your work. So I always think, how do we get to kindness? And for me, it's about building the capacity of compassion that underlies it. And you do that beautifully. I think everyone here probably does that really beautifully in our own way. And thinking about how do we stoke compassion? And the one way of thinking about compassion is the awareness of suffering and the willingness to act to relieve that suffering. And one way to stoke it is by first turning it toward ourselves and stoking our self-compassion. And that's my hope for us, is that we find a way to love ourselves. And in doing that, we'll find a way to love others. I don't think it works any other way. And I'm hoping that we find, all of us, our own spiritual practice, whatever that is, that nurtures us. And we bathe in that practice every day, so that we can grow consciousness, so that we can feel the love that is within all of life, so that we connect to that love, and that we are never ashamed of saying that word love publicly, and being that and showing that. Another way compassion arises is by finding ourselves in the other, like you mentioned. And so I invite us all to help each other. Y'all are going to help me move out of our comfort zones and develop multicultural relationships. We can't go anywhere else without it. And one way to do that is by, there's a place at Steve's office, Sunday afternoons at 4. I have this vision that it could grow to the TCC, of being just practicing our oneness, feeling our oneness on a regular basis, and being able to celebrate authentically our diversity. Think about doing that every week. Think about feeling the TCC every week with this kind of spiritual and social capital. What we could do, because we know we're all out there, and Jeanette's connecting us. But I think we need the support of each other on a very regular basis. I know I need support. That we just can't live out kindness sometimes by a matter of our will. We need support of each other. We need a cultural support. And I'm grateful that Tucson has that. So I invite us just to join hands, actually, to feel oneness for just a moment and feel its power. Feel the power in this room of actually knowing that we are indeed family, that we are brothers and sisters, that we are one, that we already have the love we need in this room, just in this room, to live as one family. Thank you.
Told you. We all know this guy, Bishop Buchanan's. Come on, we'll share a few words. Appreciate him speeding back up here from another event in Southern Arizona earlier this morning for being here. Thank you.
First of all, it's an honor to be among those speaking today. It certainly reflects who we are as a community. And Jeanette, I know Ben must be very proud of what great good you have accomplished. You know, our city is 242 years old. Our country, more than 350 years old. Our faith traditions are Jewish, Christian, and Islamic, and other faith traditions go back generations. And we've all made horrendous mistakes, acts of unkindness. And we've learned some things in these years, sort of. We've learned that discrimination is never right, that racism is never right, that bullying is never right, and yet it still happens. But this community, at least what I've experienced and what I've learned, is that when something ugly happens, we come together and we stand up. January 11th, Brady remembers, this community came together, stood up. January 8th, this community came together, stood up. And we do it again anytime that we experience hatred and discrimination and divisiveness, because that is not who this community is, and it is not what our society should be. We're making little progress, but there's great hope, because there are communities like this who do come together and who do stand up to speak out against what harms and hurts others. Be kind, as you say, Grady, is a simple phrase, but so powerful, so important. So we come together again, we stand up, and we say and put on a monument, be kind, so we won't forget.
See what you started? My friend and County Supervisor Richard Lees, thank you for coming out this evening.
Well, we're the county, we're here to help. Someone has to bring a little levity into these things, you know? Anyways, I was thinking that since time immemorial, this has been a crossroads. Tucson sits right at the vortex of the beginning of the North. And so people have been walking through here, heading towards the tundra, heading towards the biggest body of water in the world, over to the Great Plains, since time immemorial. And people have lived here in Tucson. We say archaeological evidence says 4,000 years. That's probably longer. Okay? And then I was thinking about when I was in 7th grade, in the fall of 1970. And that fall, there was a tremendous amount of concern about parks on the west side, and people gathered together and started the El Rio Coalition. And then at the end of the year, the Pioneer Hotel burned and 28 people lost their lives. And as a 7th grader who was already interested in all these kind of crazy things, I was kind of nervous and kind of felt like bad was surrounding us. But we found a pathway out of that, because it's okay to speak your mind. But respect and dignity for all of us is what really gets us through that. And then I was thinking about this chamber. And I was thinking about former Mayor George Miller in Paz Descanso, and how he started the Tucson Civil Rights Coalition here in this room when the Klan made a real effort to start having a presence here in Tucson. And we stopped that and we changed it. So this is, yeah, exactly. So this is the place to be today, right now, in the moment, to carry that message. Say amable, kind. It's all good. We can always share that. We can always share water. Let me say that again. We can always share water because of where we live. And let's do that. We can do that in our hearts as well. That's our responsibility to our brothers and sisters. That's what we're supposed to do. I think most of us want to do that. You know, we just kind of get caught up. Don't get caught up. Share. Be kind. Be smart. Be Tucsonans. Be proud. Welcome the stranger. Welcome the stranger. This is Tucson. This is what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today. It's so good to see all of you. So many faces I know, but quite a few that I don't, and I love that. I love that I don't know all of you. I'm Satbir, and there's a couple of things housekeeping things I want to say. One is that the Youth and Peace Conference is happening Friday, September 22nd. So if you know any high school students who might be interested, ask Ann Yellett or myself. And the title of it is Building Community Together, and it's a title that the youth selected out of some choices they were given. I'm a Sikh, so part of my presentation will reflect my spiritual side, although I want to acknowledge that all my friends who are agnostic or atheist or from different traditions, I respect you fully. I also want to say that although I love how people want to stand up for racism, I say let's roll forward with all our friends in wheelchairs who've been working for disability and human rights throughout the ages, throughout time. You are my lover, God. Yes, you are my lover, God. And you are my truest friend. You are my mother and my father, and you are my sisters and my brothers. You never leave me alone, no matter where I may roam. When you offer me hate and anger through those who would be foes, you give me compost for the garden of kindness that surrounds and sustains our beloved community. May you keep my heart planted with love and compassion, and my mind soaked with fresh understanding. And may relentless hope, Charde Kala, relentless hope, relentless hope, relentless hope, bloom within us all. Now I ask you to sit quietly in honor of the Quakers, the Pima Friends throughout the world, who also work for social justice. Just sit quietly. Wait.
She gave me an okay, I can speak. Relentless hope is so cool. We wouldn't be here were it not for Jeanette, but another person we wouldn't be here if it weren't for is really the heart and the inspiration, the prodding for this project, Mary. Mary DeCamp has been active in moving this project forward and working with volunteers and helping to pull it off. So come on up and say a few words and share.
Today's event is about celebrating kindness and respecting diversity. My role, as I see it, is to expand that diversity by representing the other. I'll use my 3 minutes to discuss contempt, contemplation, and kindness. Standing amongst all these winners, I can represent the losers among us, the dispossessed, the disenchanted, and the marginalized. I lost elections in the 2009 Ward 3 race and in the 2011 mayoral race. I lost my home in the foreclosure crisis. I lost touch with all my family members. I lost my car and most of my worldly goods. I'm certainly no beauty, and I claim no special talents besides persistence. Some find me contemptible. Have you noticed how easy it is to be kind to your own kind? It's harder to be kind to those who do not look like you, or sound like you, or act like you, or pray like you, or believe what you do. When a snowflake encounters a bigot, it's natural for both to look down their nose, hold the other in contempt. Contempt is all about mentally calculating who's more deserving, who's less worthy, and then acting in ways that devalue the other's status as a human being. But we human beings, we face more complex problems than who is upstairs and who's downstairs. Let's contemplate a few. $20 trillion national debt and the economic meltdown in the 99% of us. Food shortages and overpopulation. Deadly viral and bacterial strains like Zika and MERS. More extreme weather crises are coming. Increased reliance on the military-industrial complex to solve our crises. That leads me to nuclear annihilation. All of us, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, Michael Moore, Steve Bannon, the alt-left, the alt-right, it's gonna be control-delete for all of us. So, contemplating these threats, I've come to believe we need diversity. We need the other. We need everybody's perspective to ensure that we mount the best defenses. Differences are our salvation, not a curse. Kindness calls us to look the other in the eyes like equals and see life from another's perspective, setting aside our human differences in favor of acknowledging a shared gift of life, knowing that that life can be very short and very fragile. Kind people are everybody's kind of people. Thank you for coming out today and for showing that Tucson values kindness and compassion. Thank you.
Nobody in this room thinks you're a loser. I've known this guy for several years now from the work over at the Islamic Center of Tucson. We've gone through some struggles, but we've also shared some very welcoming and interfaith events over there. So Mahmoud Abaga from the Islamic Center of Tucson, come and share a few words.
Thanks, Steve. I want to start out by thanking Ben Bills and their volunteers for a beautiful mural. Thank you very much. I'm going to keep it short. A couple years ago, and I'm not sure if you guys remember it, but Google came out with this commercial for their Google Translates, and they said that the 3 most translated phrases are thank you, how are you, and I love you. And I know that commercials are supposed to trigger emotions, and those typically don't work on me, but this one did. To me, it really showed that regardless of what's going on in the world, regardless of the politics, our different religions or different ethnicities, it doesn't matter, because we still want to know how each other are doing, we still want to love each other, we still want to thank each other. And that message is more important here in the United States than anywhere else. No one can deny it, no political party, no anything. We are a diverse country. We are people of different backgrounds, different faiths. We are just different in every single way you can imagine. I am a Muslim. I grew up as a Muslim. And when I go out shopping with my sister, my mom, or anyone that has the hijab or the headscarf on their head, and someone looks at them and tells them, "You are welcome here," or goes up to them and says, "I apologize for the rhetoric going around," or just simply smiles at them, that brings true joy to their heart. And to be honest, even though it's not towards me, I get pretty happy too. But it's a really important message. So ladies and gentlemen, in our faith, in the Muslim faith, we are told to a'mad wa tawakkil, act, do, and then rely on your Lord. So let's act on kindness. Together, let's spread the message of kindness. Let me tell you this, the voices of racism, the voices of hate, the voices of division, there's not many of them, but they could be loud. The many are kind, the many want to love one another, thank one another. So let's go out of our way to be kind. Let's go out of our way to show that to one another. Believe me, a smile, and I'm telling you from our own experiences, a smile goes a long way. So with that, thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Smile is also pretty inexpensive. I have a tremendous amount of respect for this guy. He's our chief of police, Chris Magnus. I've invited him to come and share a few words as well. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Councilmember, and a big thanks to Ben Bells, Jeanette, you're terrific. Very happy to join with you this morning. Just a couple of thoughts, because you might think it seems like an odd mix with policing and kindness, and I wanna say we can do better and differently than that. We can incorporate kindness into policing. So a couple words on that, and then how we can work together to protect those who experience things that are not so kind, intolerance, because we have a big role to play in that as well as a police department. So how do we incorporate kindness into policing? I think it has to start, we have to understand that we've got to create a climate within the police department in terms of our training, in terms of our expectations, in terms of what we reward and celebrate, that kind of legitimize kindness. Because unfortunately, officers, that's not part of necessarily what they experience when they go through their training. They're taught, all these technical skills, and even a lot of community engagement skills don't always acknowledge that kindness is an important part of their job. So for us, this also involves this important discussion about procedural justice. You may have heard of this term. Procedural justice means we're training our officers to really give people a voice when they're interacting with them. Treat them with respect, even if it's somebody that they might have to arrest or write a ticket to. Let them feel like they're really being heard. That's very important, and that can change the entire dynamics of an interaction. But internal procedural justice within a police department is also important, because I know this won't surprise you, but if cops feel like they're not really treated fairly on a lot of things that go on inside the department, then it's hard to expect that when they go out into the community, they're going to do that. So one of the things we're talking about is how can we be more kind to our employees? How can we create a culture of kindness within our agency and give people due process, create an environment where they can bring ideas forward and really feel like they're important contributors. We also want to give, and we're really working hard at this, giving our officers more tools to deal with a lot of situations that could easily devolve without the right sort of strategies and training. So for example, we know we have a lot of folks who struggle with mental illness and emotional crisis in our community, who are dealing with drug addiction, who are homeless. How do our officers interact with those folks? And that means training that involves things like mental health first aid, crisis intervention training. We have more than 70% of our patrol officers trained 40 hours of crisis intervention training. Training in de-escalation, a whole host of things. These put us on that path towards kindness. And then, again, back to, I think, the most important thing, which is sort of changing our larger culture and saying, guess what, we're going to celebrate not just when you solve a crime or do some great work at let's say an accident scene or a lot of the other kinds of calls cops go to, but we're also going to celebrate when you reach out and help somebody, perhaps in a non-traditional way, when you're a real partner in problem solving in a neighborhood, when you really demonstrate kindness and incorporate that into the way you do your job. I think that's incredibly important. So I heard a quote from another police chief. I'd like to claim this is my own, but it's not. And even worse, I can't remember his name, but I thought the quote was great. So I've got to tell you this. He said, it's just a little act of kindness where you're providing someone with something. You make yourself approachable. You make sure that when you leave, that person feels that their humanity was acknowledged. You know, if we can incorporate that into how we do police work, what an important message for all of our police personnel to really sort of ruminate on and to incorporate and to do the way they do their work. So, you know, our job, of course, as I said, is also protecting folks from intolerance. I think we've come a long way working with partners to educate the community about hate crimes, to do a better job in terms of how we receive those reports and investigate them, to do better follow-up, to do better work even with our partners at a state and national level around those things, to do initiatives like the Safe Place initiative that we worked on. But it still comes down to those one-on-one interactions on a day-to-day basis. So I'll just end by saying our goal, my goal, is to provide all of my personnel, my officers, my professional staff, all the way up through the command ranks with more opportunities to show their own humanity. They're kind of an amazing group, and to be kind to those that we serve. So thank you.
Okay, almost done, but before we finish, I want to do two things. Number one is Colleen, stand up, and anybody here who served as a volunteer and took part in creating the mosaic, please also stand up. I know some of you are here. Thank you for the work. And themselves really kind of orchestrated the work and kind of shepherded us through the whole project, so thank you for that. In addition to the volunteers, it had to be paid for. And so Jan Vasilius is representing the Kindness Foundation. And Jan, thank you. Come on up and say a few words, and then we're going to turn it over to Jeanette and go out and unveil.
Thank you very much. Speaking right? Okay. Well, I just came here today to tell you that my cousin Susan was a total bitch. Now, I know we're supposed to be kind, so I will say my cousin Susan was a very pretty and fashionably dressed total bitch. You know, when she was a kid, she pinched her sisters. When she got older, she was the supreme tattletale. When she went to high school, she was the epitome of mean girl. When she went to college, she was the queen bitch of her sorority. She blazed through 2 marriages and just left everyone in the dust. You know, and something happened. She got nice. She became kind. She was in the middle of a pack with 6 sisters, which might explain why she was such a bitch. But she became one of the kindest people I know. And it took me a while to realize it, but it was like, wow, you know, she's not a bitch anymore. This is really great. So finally I sat down and talked to her and I said, Susan, you're nice. You used to be a real blister, but you know, you're really nice now. What happened? And she said, you know, I just decided to be nice. I decided to be kind. Part of it was having children. Part of it was having a disabled son. And she said, but part of it, I just grew up and decided to be kind. So when I knew I was going to come down here, of course, I went on the internet and I found fabulous quotes about being kind from the Dalai Lama, from Mother Teresa, from Gandhi, and even Ellen DeGeneres. But you know, quoting those people is kind of like, you know, how can you compete with that? It's like asking Michael Phelps to teach you how to swim. So I decided to talk to someone who wasn't kind, but became kind. So here's advice from my cousin Susan, filtered through me. Okay. Number 1, think before you talk or tweet. Consider before you act, and not just in the short term, but the long term, Mr. President. And third, I mean, there's more rules, you know, but these are the ones that she can handle. And I'm 65 now, and this is about as many as I can handle. Be kind to all. Now, this does include yourself, but it doesn't stop with yourself. This includes the people who are homeless and animals and children and the people that it's easy to be kind to, even if it's a kind of a condescending kindness. But this means the people that you just don't like. The neo-Nazis, you know? The people who, you know, it's not even a case of being others, but the people who are just assholes, you know? If you're kind to them, maybe they'll stop being such assholes. I think I can say that. if you keep those 3 rules in mind, there's a lot of other ones, listening to people and being perceptive and such, which fall into place. But I want to leave you with a quote that I happen to like. It's from one of the great sages of the ages, Dr. Who. He says, "I do what I do because it's right, because it's decent, and above all, it's kind." Just that, it's kind. Why not just be kind? And remember, kindness trumps nasty, love trumps hate.
Well, there's the Dalai Lama, and there's Susan. He's in a pod, right? Jeanette Fallon. Can I introduce Ben's mom? For those of you who don't know, and I suspect that's like 0 people in here. She's also the founder of Ben's Bells, and share a few words, and then you guys are gonna have to kind of part the waters so we can go out and pull that down, that being the unveil the mosaic that is really a reflection of your work. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for all of the kind words. I'm feeling overwhelmed by the people here. It's so Tucson, right, that we come together like this. I don't know if Ben's Bells would have taken off in any other community, really. What you have done is elevate the conversation around kindness. At Ben's Bells, we talk about there's a really big difference between being kind and being nice. And well, it's nice to be nice, but frankly, we don't really need more nice people right now. We need kind people. Niceness might let a difficult conversation go by because you just don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. But kindness is going to brave the discomfort to have the conversation that we need to have in order to grow and move forward. I learned so much out of my own suffering after my little Ben died. Thank you for talking about him, by the way, Teresa. That was beautiful. And what I learned was that kindness is so powerful and so important, and it's a skill set. It's a skill set. And we don't learn that skill set unless we actually have opportunity to talk about these things, roll them around, listen to each other, learn from each other. And what I found was there were people who braved me. There's a mom who's lost her child is kind of a scary person, who maybe didn't know exactly what to do or say, but who braved coming to connect to me and learned what to do or say, or braved being vulnerable enough to connect with me. There were also people who didn't brave me and who sort of stayed away, and maybe who rationalized it by saying, I don't want to intrude, which I completely understand. But we have to connect with each other. We need to connect with each other. We can't stand back and say, this is scary. We can't stand back and say, they're gonna figure it out. We have to figure out what our role is in this, and that is risky. These kind of skills are risky because they require connecting. It's much safer to stay back. I know that personally, I'm afraid to say the wrong thing sometimes when I'm in a situation where I don't know enough. And I'm afraid to use my voice sometimes. And sometimes I just want to curl up and sort of say, okay, I'm done, and somebody else can use their voice. But I know that my voice is a part of the conversation, and it needs to be there. But what I need to learn, and this is part of this skill set, is when my voice is important and when my listening is important. When I need to learn so that when I'm in a situation where my voice is important, I'll know what to say. So I am grateful to be in this community with all of you who are brave enough to learn from each other, who are kind enough to allow each other to make mistakes and to gently correct each other so that we can keep growing. Because it's only in that vulnerability, only in that willingness to sort of stick our necks out that we're gonna make a big change. So what we've done as a community is raised the conversation around kindness. We're making kindness cool together and trendy and powerful. And that allows us to talk about this a lot more, right? When somebody sticks that Be Kind sticker on the back of their car, they drive better because they know it's back there. We stick that Be Kind mural in the City Hall here. Guess what? We now need to start, we are, but we need to really live up to that thing, right? When we walk by it, we need to say, okay, I have something I want to say at this meeting, but I'm going to say it in a way that it can be heard. I'm going to say it in a way that respects people. I'm not going to attack. I'm going to use my skill set to say what I need to say in a way that can lead to change, compromise, caring for our community. And that means stepping up. So this symbol that you all, Mary, that you've helped lead, Steve, that you've championed, Colleen, Leah, our entire Bensfeld staff, and all of the volunteers have made happen, is that symbol. And I hope that when we walk by it, when we see a green sticker on a car, when we find ourselves in a situation where we don't know what to do, we'll remember that kindness is a skill and that we can learn from each other how to best care for each other. So thank you so much for believing and for working hard and for being brave. And I am so grateful to live in this community. Thanks so much.
There's no graceful way to do this with all these people, so I'm gonna let the post hogs get out there, which is what they're doing out there and out of the way. And then Jeanette, why don't you take some of your staff and you, when they're ready to get the picture, you guys yank it down. Do not forget the 2 dozen cupcakes. 4 dozen. 4 dozen, please. File by here and grab them on the way out. Thank you all for coming.